That's right. I'm here. I'm your neighbor.
Let me take the time to get to know you. We can take our time, wait as long as I have to. Let me take the time to get to know you. We can take our time, this love is still brand new.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Raj Nation Innovations Discover Your Inner Awesome podcast. My name is Rajiv Nathan, aka The Raj Nation. I am your show's host, the founder of Raj Nation Innovation, as well as a hip-hop artist and a yoga instructor. Above all else, I am a storyteller. And I'm joined by my co-host, Victoria Cohen. Victoria is the voice behind the blog, almondsandasana.com. She is also a yoga instructor and a community activist focused on helping you make lifestyle choices that positively impact you and the people you serve. This is Discover Your Inner Awesome, the only show where you get to eavesdrop on conversations with entrepreneurs, artists, and musicians about the stories, the journeys, the struggles, but most importantly, the questions. The questions that help creative thinkers like you and I better understand who we are, what we're doing, and how we can do it better. It's real talk with real people doing real big things to show you the real side of success. We have reached our season finale, and in this episode, we sit down with Lisa Sohanpal. Lisa is the founder and CEO of Noms World Food. Our conversation with Lisa is around the question, how do you build strong teams, specifically as she works with a distributed global workforce? Before we dive into that conversation, I'd like to extend an invitation if you are not a member already. Join our tribe by going to discoveryourinnerawesome.com. Enter your email address there and you will never miss another episode of this show, getting an email in your inbox every single Monday when we release new episodes. You'll also get my advice and tips for telling your startup story throughout the week. All right, let's dive in now to our conversation with Lisa Sohanpal. How do you build strong teams? Let's listen in.
I came from corporate world where, building strong teams, we were getting trained on that and making sure you have a, diverse set of skill sets within the team. You've got personalities, different personalities, and how to adapt to them. But now having my own business and starting from scratch and building teams from the beginning, your ideal team, it's even more challenging, I have to say, because you're always trying to find someone that's got heart and soul and believes in what you believe in, and has a lot of passion for what you do and feels inspired by it. And during the interviews, of course, you will get some of those reactions and you think, oh, I found the right person. Yeah, I've got this person. It's going to be great. But then as time goes on, you then learn a little bit more about the people that you're bringing into your team, and you find that it's a really, really challenging, and you don't really know until you come across an issue, a challenge that you have to address together as a team, and that's where I find out a lot about my team, their skills, their ambition, their passion, their, how they think, how they're going to get out of this situation, and what is the next solution, just problem solving. And that's when you really find out about the strength of your team and how well they can, transpire those skill sets across different kinds of challenges. And as a startup business, there are never-ending challenges. And the biggest challenge for me is that I have to manage my team remotely, pretty much. So I live in Toronto. My team is based in UK and Europe. And we have a team of 5 at the moment in Paris. We have a few, and then we've also got in London. But to me, building a strong team is not just my immediate team, but it's also all the stakeholders involved. We're dealing with distributors, we're dealing with buyers, we're, forming partnerships. And together, this is all part of the teamwork that we have to manage at different levels. So for me, the challenges have changed from this environment that I've come from corporates to going into startup, and then managing remotely has had its own set of challenges. But there's no magic formula. You really got to go with your gut, but also keep on assessing ongoing based on the situations that we encounter.
One of the things that's absolutely crucial for an early stage startup is getting those first few hires correct, because that can make or break a company. If they bet, you don't want it to be a gamble or a bet, but essentially if you bet on the wrong person. So, you said there's no magic formula or anything, which there isn't, but what are some of the things just in the team you've collected so far, and as you look to expand the team over the next year or so, what are some of the qualities you are looking for, and what are some effective ways to be able to screen for those qualities?
Yes, screening, such an important process. So first of all, communication is key. And testing that communication is also asking the big open questions, letting them explain or sell themselves is one of the things that I look for. If they can sell themselves, then that's a great start to be able to sell the brand. And with a startup especially, whenever you are out and about, it doesn't matter if you're in operations or, back office, or you're in sales or marketing, which is more, customer oriented and front of office. But whichever role you're playing in a startup business, you have to continuously sell. You're selling within your team always to get buy-in for what you want to progress with, but you're also, when you're going to networking events or you're representing the company at meetings, you are selling the business, you're selling the product, you're selling you. I mean, you're the face of the brand. So communication is key. How that person really sells themselves is important. The passion, the way they express themselves. But I will also, ask some of the real life challenging questions, perhaps something that we have gone through ourselves, and how would that person answer or adapt or come to a solution on solving that problem. And I will also be looking out for how collaborative they are in their thinking, and if it's just a me situation, or is it something that they feel strength in a team, because you need union, you need strength, and you need to be able to call upon each other to build a stronger foundation moving forward. But in startup, you're right. You've got to get it. You've got to get the right skill set and passion from the beginning, but also knowing that person is willing to get their hands dirty. Because in startup world, you're doing everything. Yeah, I mean, there's no defined role. You can't expect, if you're going for a job in marketing, that's all you're going to do, and you're not going to help. You're not going to probably sometimes do a sales function, or go in and do some operations as well, or whatever it is, or pack some meals and wear your heels and take trains and carry the food and set up stands. You've got to get your hands dirty, and you shouldn't be shy from that. And I would always be looking out for initiative and passion, and just that willingness to go the extra mile.
One of the things I really like what you said there was the sort of the ability to, can they express and can they sell themselves? To me, I think that's such a good indication, specifically in a sales role or a marketing role, if they can be successful, is if they can talk about themselves in a way that makes you want to buy into them. And what I have seen is prevalent, not just in startup world, but across the board, I would say, is people hating having to talk about themselves. And I say that to the extent that my previous business was built around helping people figure out how to talk about themselves.
Right.
Now my current business is helping people figure out how to talk about themselves and their company, so they can get funded. And for you, when you think about that situation where someone has to sell themselves,
Mm.
or even in situations where you have to sell, convince other people of Lisa and of
Yeah.
Noms.
Yeah.
What have you found works well for you?
For me personally,
Yeah.
I think that personal story and that connection to the brand, that has worked amazingly well. When I first started up, I had actually two business ideas that I wanted to go with, and and I started both of them just to see, how, which one it is that I'm going to make hugely successful. And we went into this startup weekend, and I formed a team, and we pitched to investors, and we got interest from an investor, and then that investor called me into their office and asked me that one question. It's not related to Nom Noms; it was the other business idea, and the one question was, "How did you come up with this idea, and why do you think it's important to bring this business to market?" And it was a business in technology. I just came up with an idea that I thought was great, but I didn't have any connection with it. And I stumbled. I just thought, oh, I just think, to be honest, I just think it's a great idea, and I think it can help a lot of people. But in terms of me personally, it just didn't connect with me. And it was that day when I decided, actually, I'm going to focus on non-noms, because there is that personal connection. And it came out of a personal need. And that's what I can tell with my story and how I brought the idea to life, and why we're going down a certain path with storytelling and through packaging and everything, because it came out of a personal need, and I can really relate to it. And when buyers or investors or whoever listens to the story, then they can also relate to it as well, because it's to do with food, it's to do with convenience, and it's to do with everyday kind of challenges of busy working parents or your professionals. So I think the personal story is really important. It's really helped me in selling my brand and my product. As far as the team is concerned, they need to feel inspired about what the business they're joining, and the products, and how we are helping people, and feel really good about it. If they don't feel that from inside, it's going to be very hard to sell, and they're probably not the best fit for the brand.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm curious, when you first got this started, how, from like a team building perspective, what were the very first roles that you hired for, and how did you know that those were the needs that you needed to fill?
Yeah, so the first role. So I came from a medical background, and so I was in medical devices. And I started a business in the food industry. So it was a lot of learning from my perspective. I really had to know the food industry to be able to sell into it and understand everything. So I was looking for people that were within the food industry that had that insight, already know how it all works, and so we don't have to go through that learning all over again. So that was the first thing, is to look for experience and insight within the industry that I'm going into, and that could add value to me as the CEO and the founder in the direction the business can take. So that was the first role, food industry, but sales oriented, because without getting any orders, you're not going to have a product to sell. You can create the brand, you can create the product, but if you can't sell it, and there's no orders, and then forget about it. You can just go home. So sales was the first one, and then it started to expand into, okay, now we need operations, and now we need more back office support. But in terms of the sales function, I still do a lot of the sales myself. I did hire some salespeople, and then I got rid of them really quickly too, because I just didn't feel that they were doing a great job at selling the passion. In terms of, they didn't have the passion, so they couldn't sell it, and that was lacking.
And so in terms of developing like the recipes and the food and how you make the food, was that, obviously you came up with the initial idea, but how much help did you need and how quickly did you bring people or a person on who sort of helped to develop and curate that?
Oh, that was really fun. We had the whole family involved, and my in-laws especially. So, father-in-law was a chief stirrer, mother was the the chef, and then grandmother-in-law was quality control, and she was making sure every carrot was cut to the right size. And mother-in-law learned very quickly that she had to scale everything and weigh everything, and every pinch, when you convert a kitchen recipe to a commercial recipe, a pinch could turn into 20 kilogram
right.
bag that goes into it. So she was getting better and better at measuring and writing everything down. So it was a huge, it was an interesting process because we must have made around 50 different types of dishes, from around the world. And Noms World Food actually started off as mini Noms, really. We started off as a children's food brand, for kids, to inspire them to have, healthy, nutritious, and diverse cuisines from a young age. So we made 5 different types of, butter chicken and biryani and tagines and all sorts of different dishes, and took it to the daycare on a Saturday and invited all the parents to bring their kids and do some taste testing. And I remember we just spent 24 hours slaving in the kitchen, making all the food, different types. We had about 10 or 15 different types of dishes that we were going to take. And then I was getting text messages from Jasmine's mom, saying, "Oh, Lisa, Jasmine doesn't eat foreign food. So just to let you know, in case she doesn't try it." Oh, great. And then, another text message. "Oh, Aaron, he's never been exposed to spices. So if it's spicy, he might not like it." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I doing?"
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for all.
Exactly. I was thinking, oh my God, your kids are the most fussiest eaters on the planet. How am I going to... Oh my God! What's going to happen? This is going to be a disaster, and I was already feeling nervous about the whole thing. But anyway, we lugged all the food around. We had no packaging or branding or anything. We took it in Tupperware, and what I had to do was, we found that the parents are often the barriers. If they're not used to cooking with spices, they've not exposed their children to this kind of food, then they're naturally going to be nervous about it. So I asked all the parents to stand on the side near the wall and gave all the kids multi-compartment plates, trays, to go and choose their own food. And we were capturing on video footage and camera photography on the emotions, what kind of food they were going towards, what colors were.
Yeah, I bet nothing green.
Exactly, yeah, I purposely didn't have much green around. But, the texture.
We actually use Skittles instead of peas.
Yeah. And their first reaction when they tried the food. And it was so interesting because Jasmine was going back for seconds and thirds, and Aaron was licking the bowl of the chutney, So it was, oh my God. And then I saw this mom, writing an essay, pretty much on the feedback form. You're only supposed to tick, 1 to 5. But she's fully writing her comments, and I'm getting nervous. I'm thinking, oh no, she's probably writing a whole list of improvements that we should make, or, but actually, it's my first feedback form, and I framed it because it brought a tear to my eye. And she wrote, I never expected my son to enjoy this kind of food because we've never had it when we were young. And I'm so impressed. He really loves it. When can I buy it? When is it going to become available? And and that son of hers was just wanting to take some home as well. So I was like, oh wow, that just made it for me. I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. If this is a kind of reaction I can get in terms of the food, and then and make it more easier for parents to feel good about giving prepared food. Because 4 years ago, when I came up with the idea, prepared meals or ready meals, as we call it in the UK, had a stigma attached to it. There was, you always felt that it was processed food or, mass produced and packaged. It's got high preservatives and additives added and all sorts of nasties. So for us, it was an opportunity to revolutionize the ready meal category, because there was nothing like it on the market, which was truly authentic in flavor and made with no nasties. And I think that's what we wanted to do, was give that guilt-free kind of convenient option to parents, that they can actually feel good about giving this food because it's made like as if it's made at home. Mm-hmm. And that kind of reaction reinforced that I should proceed. But then it was parents themselves said, well, we want healthy international food too. Why isn't this available for us? And then when buyers started saying that too, that's when Mega Noms was born. And so we've got mini Noms for kids and Mega Noms for grown-ups, and they come under the Noms World Food. Yeah.
So cool. So I'm curious then, with sort of your scaling, how, because I like what you mentioned about these sort of preconceived notions about packaged food and, having preservatives and, being so mass produced that they lose the flavor and the nutrients and everything. So how are you guys doing that differently? Or, kind of like, what's your philosophy and process as you scale to keep that integrity, and not lose it in that space?
Yes. Oh my God. It is the hardest thing I've done in my life. Really. We're trying to create the most authentic, and healthy food, and keeping it local at the same time across the world. So it's not like we are, making food in the UK and shipping it to the US. We are working with local, large-scale kitchens, so production kitchens, that could deliver upon the values and the credentials of the food. Now, because I've come from a medical background, my husband is also a doctor. Creating a healthy brand or food that carries high health credentials is part of the DNA of the brand. So it was from day one that we were looking at the nutrition profile to make sure that there's no salt, or very low salt, but no added refined sugars or preservatives, additives, and all of those kind of things. And so when we go to these other markets, we have to work very, very closely with their development chefs, who have to redevelop all of our recipes using local ingredients, locally sourced, and replicate that flavor and quality before we can actually release it into the local market. So, and that's why it is incredibly challenging. It's a huge headache for me because, like I'm based in Toronto, so I do have to travel quite a lot, and I wouldn't approve any of our food going out into the market until I've personally tasted it, tested it, and feel good that it is, it's what our customers want.
Coming back to the idea of teams, kind of what you said there, I would view that as almost an extension of your team, even if it is facilities you have to contract with and hire out. Now, can you talk through what I've always found fascinating whenever I see companies like yours that are involved essentially like production facilities, right?
Yeah.
Is figuring out, like, how did that CEO figure out this is the facility we're going to go with? And I'll even take it back to an earlier point you mentioned where you said with some salespeople, you had some and then you fired them. And I think knowing when to fire is actually very key in this early stage process as well. Knowing when to hire is clutch, but if that doesn't pan out as you'd hoped, knowing when to fire as well. So whether it is your own internal team members, your own salespeople, or those who are contracted out on the production side, how is it that you know, okay, well, this is the production we're going to go with, and then whether it's internal or external, what's your litmus test for it's time to fire?
Yeah, really good. So in terms of working with all these external partners and trying to get the production out, it's really, really hard for startups. First of all, like you pitch to investors, you have to pitch to the production kitchen. You have to get their buy-in, and they need to believe in you that you've got a product that is innovative, that is hitting, the key gaps in the market, and that it is going to be successful. For them, they don't want to take risks with small scale startups, and they see a lot that come through. And for them also, it takes them away from their regular day-to-day contracts that they have to fulfill. So to really, we have to pitch to them. I have to pitch to them and entice them and show them the potential, and really make them believe in what I'm creating is something that is going to work for them as well as us. Because these days, even manufacturing kitchens and big corporates are looking to innovate, and it's very hard to innovate. It takes a lot longer for them to do it internally. It's much easier and quicker if they can take on a ready product or ready brand. So initially, 4 years ago, nobody wanted to talk to me, really. And there was a lot of no's. No, 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 no. I said, I want to do this. No, can't do that. And it was basically centered around, I was trying to create something different that wasn't done in the industry. And because they are so used to producing at mass scale for what the supermarkets want at a certain price, their equipment and everything, all the equipment, all the tooling and everything that goes on isn't capable to produce at small scale. So it's a chicken and egg situation. First of all, it's, okay, how many pallets? That was the first question. How many pallets per week do we need to produce for you? And I'm like, pallets? How many meals fit on a pallet? It was like that kind of learning experience where, I need to go and get the sales interest first. Is anyone going to buy this product? Are the customers interested? Then is a buyer going to list the product before I can even forecast and go back to the manufacturers and say, okay, this is a kind of volume of business I can bring to the table. This is, when we need to start. This is a makeup of the recipes. Will you produce for me? And even then it was like, no, 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 no. It took a lot of convincing to get them to do it at a smaller scale. And then now it's a different story because we've gone through many different manufacturers. So either they do say yes and then they can't produce to the volume of business that I was bringing to the table, or they don't have the capabilities to do everything that my brand needs. And so therefore I need to work with multiple production kitchens to source the products to make up our full combination. So knowing who to use from the beginning you can only know once you know how you want your product to be made and how much of it you need for it to be made, because then we had to keep on changing our brief depending on who we want to make our product. So we'd have to sacrifice some of the things that we wanted, because if we don't, it's going to cost us more money to go to multiple manufacturers. So we've got to sacrifice a few things, get the product out there, and then work with them to build a longer-term partnership, and then get more of what we wanted initially back into the picture. So yeah, it's incredibly challenging. So I had to make quick decisions on that, because I've been at the beginning. So I've learned now over 4 years, but at the beginning, you're at their mercy. You have no choice. you have to work with them, otherwise you won't get a product out. So you have to compromise a lot. But now I know the questions to ask and the certifications that they need. We've gone through a whole process, and then at the end found out they didn't have a certain certificate that our retailer needed to launch our product, and therefore we couldn't get on the shelf because they didn't have that certificate. And for them to get that certificate meant they had to invest hundreds and thousands of pounds, and also it would take another 6 to 8 months. So we had to then go find another producer to then start all over again. And that's why it's taken so long to get this product to market. It's because of these kind of challenges that we've been facing. Not asking the right questions, because we didn't know what the right questions were at the beginning. But now that we're entering North America, having the experience from the UK, Europe, now I know that there are certain questions I need to know upfront before I even progress any further discussion. And so, yeah, it's a learning experience.
Let's pause 60 seconds for this public service announcement for you startup founders out there listening. The Discover Your Inner Awesome podcast is brought to you by Raj Nation Innovation. If you are not familiar yet with Raj Nation Innovation, let me tell you real quick. I talk to founders pretty much every day who flat out tell me, Raj, we suck at telling our story. Well, my job is to remove the suck. With Raj Nation Innovation, I blend a unique background in both branding and songwriting because, as I'm sure you know if you've been listening to this show, I am also a hip-hop artist. And so I look at business communication through the lens of entertainment and performance. And with that approach, I partner with growth-focused startups to help them develop their pitch, their story, and their message so they can go raise investor capital and acquire their early customers. Companies like FanFood, Keo, Jiffy Rides, Muses, and more have all gone through my signature brand communication playbook and come out on the other side winning pitch competitions, raising seed funding, and being masters of telling their story. Holler at me at www.rajnationinnovation.com. That's rajnationinnovation.com. Back now to the show. Something that I have noticed in just my own experience, because I think regardless of industry, there are always going to be several moving parts, several functions that have to be run by one person or spread across several people. And I've noticed that in previous working environments and other just team scenarios in general, that the toxicity of a bad personality is almost it's more pervasive than the positivity of a good personality. So like I remember in high school there was someone on our track team who just like was so full of himself, and most of the team couldn't stand. And then and there was always these little like run-ins you'd have, whatever 15, 16-year-old boys going through puberty are going to have that. But I think that even happen in an adult environment as well. And then what I think is actually really funny is, and then someone new came onto the team who was like a freshman. And then this kid was full of himself. And so it was, what is it, like my enemy's enemy is my friend, right? And so the original guy, who everyone was like, that guy didn't like the young kid. So then it was like, we would like team up with him and not like the young kid together. And what doesn't happen though is someone really positive and really helpful comes in and people join together in the name of positivity. I don't know why that's the case. I think people like hating more than they like loving.
Well, and I think oftentimes, because I've been in that situation in I can think of multiple times when I've been in the exact situation where I'm on a team at work and there's one person who just essentially sucks the life out of everything, and they make everything really difficult.
Energy vampires.
Yeah, an energy vampire. And, they make everything really difficult and they add this whole extra complicated layer to things. I think that's sort of the thing that I've always seen is that there's like, everything's going fine except this person always finds a way to like make everything more challenging, whether it's drama or just whatever, somehow complicating things, and that always
or
ego usually some variation of that, and that does often overshadow the good things that everyone else is doing. So that is probably a really interesting that's something that's very easy to identify once it happens, but probably really hard to identify when you're just bringing someone or some organization on in the first place.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. It's very it's tough, isn't it? Especially, you know, when you're going on a certain path and you've got a certain group of people that are, you know, that are going in the same direction, and then you've got that one person that's going in the opposite direction. And I find out in a different way now. So, you know, because there's so many moving parts all the time, and there's a lot that we as a team have to take on to do and meet a lot of deadlines and everything else. And so what I found is that I had a person that used to complain all the time. And, you know, that's draining.
Oh, I love those people.
Oh my God. You know, and you just want, okay, you're complaining, but where's the solution? Give me the solution. You know, I would have my own solutions that I can come up with, but you really got to make them accountable for it. You know, you've got to ask them to think a little bit more about how can they solve this issue that's making them so upset. And there's different either hierarchies or degrees that people get upset with certain things. It's like, that wouldn't even affect me one little bit, and why is it affecting you? Like at that level. And it was incredibly draining, especially you know, managing from another country, so you're not always there, so you've got to rely a lot on, you know, phone conversations or text messaging and, you know, all forms of media, WhatsApp, this and that and everything. And then when that person is always even complaining on text messaging, then, you know, you've got to turn that phone off.
So let's talk a little about the technology aspect of this. So you've got, I think you're on 3 different continents right now, or 3 different countries in terms of team members. Yeah,
totally. And then we're launching in Australia too. So now it just feels like, you know, 24 hours.
Right. Okay. So on the technology side of things, just advice you can give. What have you found to be the best tools to work with your team members, given that you're in different time zones and radically different time zones at that?
Yeah.
It's not like Eastern versus Central time hour apart. This is UK 6 hours or 7 hours ahead.
Yeah, totally. You know, it's a really good question. First of all, in terms of technology and the tools that we use, in terms of project management and keeping on top of tasks, we use Asana a lot. And Slack is now, we're using Slack a little bit more now as well. But in terms of project and meeting deadlines and, you know, categorizing them, Asana is a great tool. But WhatsApp is a really quick, you know, text image sharing and all that format that we use in terms of technology. And then I'll get the odd email that, Lisa, can you send this via email? I'm like, why? You know, and then I send it by email, and then I'm still waiting for an answer. And I'm like, I sent it on email, sent it on WhatsApp, and then still not getting an answer. So, you know, let's just have a phone conversation about this. But with Australia as well, so what I was going to go into was that I start work at 2:00 in the morning. 2:00 was this morning, but usually around 3:00 every morning. So I can work to the time, to the time zone of the UK, Europe. Otherwise, if I start work here at 9:00, it's 2:00 in the afternoon over there. So
what time do you go to
pretty
bed?
much. I do conk out at around 9 o'clock.
That's still not that much. That's only like 5 hours of
very
sleep.
much sleep.
It's so funny because I've got 3 kids, and, you know, I'm reading them books at night, and I'm falling asleep.
Yeah, you're the one falling asleep.
I'm slurring my words, and I'm seeing double vision, and, you know, I'm trying to read this Harry Potter book to my son. And then I just said to him, you know, Ishan, why don't you just read to me? Put me to sleep. That'd be good. But I wake up and I have in my mind, 1,000 things I've got to get done, in the next hour or so. And with 3 or 4 cups of coffee by the time the kids wake up, I've done a lot of my work and I'm buzzing to manage it. And then it comes to around 1 o'clock in the afternoon when UK goes home and they start preparing their dinners and family time. I'm working on North America and I'm addressing everything around here locally. And then go pick up the kids and get dinner ready. And just before I start reading them stories, I've got Australia online. I fell asleep once with the phone in my hand, We had a meeting and then I said, can you look at that spreadsheet and get back to me because it's not working out? And he goes, okay, can you call back in 5 minutes and then we'll continue the conversation. It was already past my bedtime, 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, my.
And then, 5 minutes later, he was calling me, but I was in La La Land. I was out,
So it sounds like your suggestion for people that are planning on having teams around the world is to just never sleep and lots of coffee. And maybe Slack.
Yeah, maybe. But no, I think what drives me is because I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I see it's coming, it's happening, it's gonna get better. But as I talk to other entrepreneurs that have gone through this whole process, they say, oh, it doesn't get easier. The bigger the area, the bigger the problems, and for us, it's just. Unfortunately, it's just happening at the same time. As much as we try to phase it and, you can't always control when it's going to happen as much as you can try to. So we're just on this mission that we've got to make it work. And that drives me. And, hopefully I'll be able to get more sleep in the future. But until now, it's fine.
Yeah. And as crazy as your schedule sounds, that's kind of part of the game, right? It's part of the contract when you signed up for this.
Yeah.
And especially in the early years, it has to be that grind to get to a point. Not that it gets easier, but you start to get to a point where you can just better manage things and hire out and have regional managers within countries and things like that. So one other question, and then we'll start to wrap up, and ask kind of just a few more questions about the business, though. But one thing I want to get your take on is on the ego side of this, more so in a positive way, I would guess. But how did you make that transition from I to we in your use of pronouns? So like, this is my idea, like here's what I'm coming up with, versus now here's what we're building.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it all turned from I to we as soon as I got my first employee on board. That's when I started to feel more that I've now got a team that I'm building. Because prior to that, it was just me, but also with my husband. He works as a doctor, so he's not in the running of the business day to day. I mean, I wait for him to come home so I can tell him everything that's going on. And with 3 kids hanging off us, mommy, I have to send him emails just to give him an update, a text message. But when I'm pitching or when I'm presenting the brand, the business, I do speak as we, because now we are feeling more of a team on a mission. A mission, and we do feel. I do feel that I've got their support with me all the time, and through the highs and through the lows, and that's important. You've got to be able to celebrate the success together, virtually, and physically when you get a chance, but also, when there are lows, that you feel that you have got your team on your side, and you can ride through those lows together as well. And you can only do that through communication. If you don't have that constant communication or that feeling that you've got a team that's with you, then you can't call it a we, then it is an I. But that I made that transition as soon as I had my first employee, and that's when I started saying we. Yeah.
Great. So a couple quick questions here before we wrap up. I guess treat these as more like rapid fire. And through the course of this conversation, I think it's pretty obvious what your company does. So we don't necessarily go into that. And I think we've dove in pretty well into the kind of the depth of the business. But looking more at, I guess, the business side of things here, to date, has this been a bootstrap venture, or did you take in funding for this?
Yeah, it's pretty much bootstrapped, and we're still bootstrapping big time. It's costing us more than I ever imagined that it would, and we've got some angel investors at smaller scale, and mostly some family and friends as well. But pretty much majority is self-funded, and we will be looking at raising investment. We're talking with some big investors, corporates, in fact, that can really help us scale and take us to another level. I think that's the rate limiting step is, with the funds, we can really accelerate and grow. Without it, it's a much slower process. So we're getting there, but it's a slower process, a much more challenging one as well.
As you look to expand now, what's on the horizon here for 2018?
So 2018 is to execute. So much of the 2017 was getting it all ready and getting our listings confirmed, our distributorship, partnerships confirmed as well. And also, it's very tempting as an entrepreneur to say yes to everything, in terms of the opportunities just landing on my lap. It's pretty phenomenal. And it's so easy to say, yes, we'll do it. But now the time has come that I really got to focus and execute on what I've got. So we're not actually taking on any more business for 2018. Our focus is on driving it and executing the launch plan and go-to-market strategies, really working through the different models that we've got in different countries to find out exactly which is the model that we're going to go with. And what I mean by that is in the UK, we're trialing a direct-to-consumer model. So we'll be delivering our subscription boxes, with a range of wraps and mega meals and mini meals and all of this kind of stuff. Because in the UK, we are, the first family-focused food brand, so we can really make it easier for families for their dinner. But in France, and we're going directly into the supermarkets. We'll be across around 2,000 stores in France, and then in Australia another 2,000, and then 4,000 in another European country. So it's about executing and making sure operations, supply chain, and logistics is working, and then building a profitable model as well. So I've spent the last four years trying to build this kind of model that's going to be a profitable business model moving forward, and so we can smoothen out our supply chain, because in chilled food, it's incredibly challenging and a costly venture compared to an ambient product that, it just goes into the middle of the supermarket, sits on the shelf, and you don't have to worry about keeping it at the right temperature. So we learned that, and we're smoothing that out so it's a profitable business going forward. And then we can work on marketing and customer acquisitions and building that story. We're also, for every meal purchase, we feed a hungry child in India. And I guess this is a why in what we're doing. It's the essence of the brand. It's about a social conscious and bringing it to life about the difference we can make in another child's life. And we're going to be implementing technology and creating virtual reality experiences for our consumers to really take them to India to see the difference they're making in that child's life. And that child that wants to stay off the street and goes to school, walks 20 kilometers to go to school because they're guaranteed a midday meal from Noms, and that they can then continue their education and, become a doctor, a dancer, a photographer, and all these dreams that they had. We are actually making them come alive, and we're getting case studies now of these kids, the difference that we've made, and it's so inspiring, and it helps us with our story, with our mission, and we want to deliver that in different languages in the countries that we're going to be present.
Excellent. Where can our listeners find Noms and get in touch?
So www.nomnomsworldfood.com is our website, and then we're also very active on Instagram, nomnomsworld. Also, I've got an Instagram profile too at Lisa Sohanpal, and Facebook as well with Noms World Food, and LinkedIn too. So yeah, we're across all the social platforms. You can't miss us.
Awesome. It's fun to say too. Noms World Food.
Do you know what that means, Nom Noms? Do you know what Nom Noms means?
Like the sound you make when you're eating, no?
Yes!
Yeah.
Well, hang on. You missed one important word. It's the sound that one makes when eating delicious food.
Ah, okay.
So true. You do not.
You're ready for Shark Tank. All right. So then to wrap up, we'll go one by one and give our answer to today's question. We'll start with Victoria, and Lisa, we will close with you. Victoria, our question today was, how do you build strong teams?
I think this is a really tough one to answer. And I think that just one thing I'll say based on this conversation is, and I haven't really had to do this yet, so but I think it's being open to the fact that people may or may not work out. And, organizations that you work with, or manufacturers that you work with, or, all of these contractors, whatever that you bring on, I think just being open to the fact that it's all going to be a learning process, and you're probably not going to end up with the exact same people or, collaborative partners that you started with, down the road, and being okay with that. Because it sounds like, Lisa, you had some experience where you brought people on and then realized, okay, actually that wasn't the right decision, but you were able to make the second decision to walk away and say, all right, I need to make a better decision next time. So I think it's just having that open mind that you're going to do the best you can, but it may take a couple tries.
Yeah, totally.
My answer for how do you build a strong team. So actually I'll build off of that and I guess say to reduce these scenarios where it's like, crap, we screwed up there and that wasn't the right partner or whatever, is really invest your time into building out what's the journey that I'm trying to sell to these people? What's the story I'm trying to sell to them, whether it is the manufacturing partners or the team members you're hiring? Because if there's a story that they can buy into, then it's a journey they want to be along the ride for.
Yeah.
And that's when, our last episode we did with Justin, where we talked about people will work for your blood, your sweat, and tears, not just for your money, if they are on board with that mission and that why.
Yeah.
Lisa,
totally.
How do you build strong teams?
Yeah, totally agree with all of that. That's great. And I think the other point is that in teamwork, there is less me and more we, and if we can just, if you can establish collaborative working style from the beginning, then together you're able to achieve a lot more. And that collaborative style involves communication, to be able to communicate your frustrations, but also, be able to also compliment and, push each other along, and to show that support, that unity, that can build a stronger foundation. And then again, it's about, you should be able to laugh together. If you can laugh together, you can work together and enjoy the experience, rather than feeling that it is a work. I'm just here to do my day job and that's it. It's like really feeling the connection with the brand, the mission, and then enjoying the experience and the journey.
Lisa Sohanpal, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
That wraps up this conversation. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your experience, your journey, your story with our audience. Did you, the listener, enjoy this episode? If so, the best compliment you can give us is a rating and review on iTunes. Ratings and reviews help more people find the show, therefore more people get to discover their inner awesome. While you're leaving that review, go ahead and subscribe to the show on whatever platform it is you listen, whether that is iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or the various other podcasting platforms in which you can find the show. For full show notes, references, and resources, as well as Lisa's contact information, grab it all by heading to www.discoveryourinnerawesome.com, and while you're there, check out our over 100 episode archive. That'll do it for Season 8, ladies and gentlemen. We have reached our season finale, a season that included our 100th overall episode. We were so excited to bring this to you this season. We are taking an extended break before we roll into Season 9. Victoria and I have to do a little bit of strategizing, a little bit of planning around the show. Don't worry, we are not leaving you. We are just taking an extended break. We'll be back in touch when we have a clear idea of when Season 9 will launch, but figure roughly 2 months or so. But in that meantime, again, you can check out our over 100 episode archive through iTunes, through Google Play, through SoundCloud, through Stitcher, or at our website at discoveryourinnerawesome.com. And if you are a startup founder seeking seed or Series A investment, go ahead and hit me up. Send me an email at rajiv@discoveryourinnerawesome.com, or you can head to the business website, rajnationinnovation.com. Drop me a line there, and we can chat and talk about pitching your company in the right way to set you up for success and set you up for funding. Thank you again to Lisa Sohanpal for joining us for our season finale. For Victoria Cohen, I am Raj Nation. You have been listening to the Discover Your Inner Awesome podcast. We will see you next time, but in the meantime, take care and be awesome today.
My baby sweet, I mean she's sweeter than all outdoors love.